Okay, so I was in church today, and I learned about this story where it's in a desert, and there's a priest, and he walks past this guy, and he's like pretty much beat up, looks nearly dead, and he looks at him and he goes, nope, and he just carries on. And then another guy passes, and he also looks at him and he's like, nope, I'm not even getting involved, and he passes on. And then another guy passes and he helps him. He takes him to the closest inn. He gives his money for a room for the day for the inn, and it said, I'll be back tomorrow, and all the extra expenses, I can pay off for the fella. And at the time, the cultural thing was that the guy that helped this other guy, he should have really seen him as an enemy, and yet he didn't. He helped their neighbour as he loves himself. Now, it's a great story, but I have two questions, and that is, one, if you don't love yourself, because a lot of people in today's society don't care for themselves, how do they love their neighbour, right? Because if they treat themselves as they treat others, then that could be seen as bad, right? If you down talk yourself and give yourself a lot of shit, the only way you know how to love would most likely be the same way to everyone else. So how does someone that doesn't love himself love their neighbour? And then the other question I have is, I got, when they were telling the story, they also put that the priest probably didn't help him because he was worried about what would happen to him if it was a setup and that he was going to get robbed himself, or maybe that he didn't want to touch a dead body because of religious reasons. And so it's the what if. What will happen to me if I help this person or get involved? And I find this kind of weird as well, because for me, anytime I've ever helped someone out, there have been loads and loads of times where I know my safety could be at risk, and I don't really care. I kind of disregard my own safety when helping someone out. Is that a lack of love on my side for myself, or is it that I just purely just don't care? And so it kind of blows my mind that the priest walks past and decides not to help this person because of what he could happen to him. For me, that doesn't really calculate in my mind, because when I see someone in need, personally, the own care for myself kind of goes out the window. So then does it come back to the point where it's like, I don't love myself enough, but I'm loving other people more? It's confusing. I had these questions in my mind. I didn't ask anyone, and I just wanted to talk about them. On my way home, I got off the bus, and there was two kids in front of me, and one was giving grief to the bus driver. He put up his finger, shouting at him. I thought nothing of it. I carried on, and as I walked, these two kids were in front of me, and one of them went up to front of a house, and he took it's like a lawnmower kind of thing, and I thought, no, it's my time to intervene. So I went over to the kid. I said, "What are you doing?" And straight away he had a rebuttal, and I didn't really care for the rebuttal, but I asked him why he was giving grief and why he was doing this and why he was doing that. I kind of know the answer, because I definitely probably was that kid at one point, maybe not that way inclined, but definitely I'm understanding, right? And I told him a couple things to these kids, and try to help them out, and most likely a lot of that stuff went over their head, but one day it will help them out, and I know it will click back in their head one day, and hopefully it will really sink in. But it's upsetting, because I see young adults, young kids that live the life I've lived, but don't have the luck of having maybe a guiding hand to a certain way. It makes me think about how those kids love their neighbor like they love themselves, but they don't quite know even how to love themselves. And then it's like, how do they know how to love their neighbor? You know? Because it's one thing to say it, right? Be kind, be this, be that, be this. And that's great and all. But what if you only know a certain way of loving and someone else doesn't accept that love, or someone else doesn't see that as love? It's a question I put to you guys because I have no clue. Yeah, that's everything. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.